Everyone, and welcome to my presentation on my understanding of instructional leadership and how it impacts my future practice. To start off, I'll just give you a little background about myself. I'm a grade 1 homeroom teacher at a private school in Abu Dhabi. In this presentation, I'm going to explore my experience of interactions with leadership as I wish to assume the position of grade coordinator soon. These are the topics that will be explored in the following slides. What is instructional leadership? Instructional leadership is commonly defined as the management of curriculum and instruction. However, there is more to just that. It is also known as the leadership for learning. So it encapsulates developing relationships with both the learner and its environment, focusing on educators' guidance, pedagogical effectiveness, and the promotion of positive learning outcomes. Why is instructional leadership important? It can improve the quality of teaching in a number of ways, for example, through observations, critical feedback, and CPD. It supports student learning by tracking student achievement through various assessment types, for example, formative and summative assessment. I'm going to talk about assessment a bit more as to how it's carried out in our school later on. And finally, it promotes shared leadership. In order for effective instructional leadership be carried out, leaders should be able to maintain good rapport with their teachers, so they feel comfortable voicing their opinion. So not all decisions seem as though they are top down. Teachers and leaders are able to learn from one another. This leads us on to the theories that shape instructional leadership. Hallinger and Murphy created a framework of instructional leadership that consists of 3 dimensions: defines the mission, manages instructional program, and promotes school climate, which consists of 11 job descriptors. So as we can see here, later Murphy went on to develop this theory further, creating 4 dimensions broken down into 16 different roles or behaviors. So as we can see, we have 3 that we had earlier. From this, we can see that Hallinger and Murphy's focus on direct expectations of leadership in order to be effective. Leithwood's theory of leadership consists of 5 domains: setting directions, building relationships and developing people, designing organization to support desired practices, improving instructional program, and securing accountability. So we can see that he sort of focuses on the indirect sense of things in comparison to Hallinger and Murphy, who very much focused on the direct sense. So he's focusing on the school organization and the people more so. Let's have a look at the leadership in my institution. So we have the grade coordinator, we have the academic quality controller, AQC, and we have HODs or head of departments, deputy principal, and director. Let's look at the instructional leadership practice at my institution in a little bit more detail. So the AQCs, HODs, and grade coordinators monitor curriculum progress. So they tailor the curriculum and change our pacing chart depending on student improvement or whether students are struggling or test results, etc. As teachers, we must follow a universal pacing chart. So this pacing chart basically tells us what we need to do within the month. So every teacher is more or less on the same page. We have weekly department meetings, which allow us to collaborate with other teachers and voice our opinions and share our ideas. We have monthly and midterm CPT. So after school, once a month, we engage in CPD and explore different topics. We also have a weekly assessment of our students. This is a digital sort of platform called AMS, Academic Management System. So this is basically where we test our students on the material of the week in our core subjects, and we're given feedback as to how they did, and this also informs management's decisions. We also have periodic exams and summative exams as well. What would be my approach to instructional leadership? My preferred leadership style is instructional leadership with elements of collaboration. I believe collaboration is very, very important. Teaching and learning should obviously be the center of leadership, as well as a student centered approach, because at the end of the day, what we're doing is all for our students. I would promote collegiality, teacher voice in meetings, probably reinforce a buddy system. I found that particularly beneficial when I started off teaching, to shadow another teacher and to work with them, see, observe some of their classes. So I promote peer observation and reflection. So from time to time, I think it's good to get in another fresh eye, have a look, like, for example, get a colleague into your class and have a look at your lesson. They can tell you what's going wrong or what to improve, because sometimes you don't really see it when you're so used to being in the routine. Shared planning and reflection definitely would be very important. I would track student progress with formative and summative exams. So I would definitely implement something similar to the AMS system. So I could see from week to week how my students are progressing, what do we need to work on, what areas do we need to improve. So I would align the curriculum and assessment and lesson planning appropriately. I would build collegial trust and adopt an open minded approach. I think that's very important to have as a leader. What I would do in terms of pedagogical and assessment practices, I would model and promote creative and active teaching strategies in the classroom. For example, problem based learning, inquiry based learning, project based learning, UDL, because these strategies prove very beneficial to student learning. I promote student autonomy, get students to set goals for themselves, challenge themselves, work in groups, and engage in self reflection. I promote the integration of technology and AI, as there's no point in ignoring them because that is the future of education. I'd emphasize rubric questions and formative assessments, so I'd encourage healthy examinations. Basically, get students to like test themselves, inform their own learning. Basically, student autonomy. What leadership does well? They focus very much on teaching and learning. We have a good system when it comes to tracking student progress. Um, AQCs, HODs, and grade coordinators observe our classes and give us constructive feedback. We have a student life organisation, so students are able to voice their opinion. We have good pedagogy techniques, curriculum alignment, and CPD. And leadership is very much approachable when it comes to solving conflict and problems. Challenges leadership face, so they're often caught up in administrative affairs. Um, Teachers, they don't always build enough trust for teachers and lack empathy. They lack collegiality, not developing positive school culture, a lack of action when it comes to problems. That links into the trust. So if they're not going to take action promptly, teachers and students lose faith in them. Rigidity and failure to embrace change. Sometimes they're too set in their ways. How can we overcome these problems? As you can see on screen, there are a number of ways we can overcome these problems. I'd like to zone in on collaboration. So I believe as a school, we should put together a school portfolio of all teachers' lessons that are successful or were very good ideas. So I do that by putting them all into Padlet, and then teachers can access them at their ease and get ideas. I would also attach a little QR code leading to a Padlet at the bottom of my email, so teachers can quickly just scan with their phones the Padlet code, and it would take them to this screen here, which I had to say where they can put in any of their concerns, any of the little problems, so I'd be able to address them. I'll conclude with a quote from Leafwood, Our Leaders Made or Born. I believe made. Well, having engaged in this presentation, I feel like I've been made a better leader. The presentation gave me the opportunity to sort of step back and reflect on what leaders do well and what they don't do well. I was able to explore other theories like Leithwood's theory and Hallinger and Murphy's. Thank you so much for listening. And this is my bibliography.